as the Miami Dolphins continue to look for a head coach, looking at some of these candidates, like I said before, the majority are defensive-minded head coaches. Yesterday, they wanted to be all secretive, traveling down to New Orleans to interview Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. But it's mind-boggling to me that I don't hear no complaints about Dennis Allen, but y'all sit back and complain about Matt Burke as our defensive coordinator. Look at Dennis Allen's record. The man's 8-28 as an NFL head coach. That's a pass. Then you look at Chris Richard, the defensive backs coach for the Dallas Cowboys. All I'm hearing is the fact that he sat back and coached the Legion of Boom. Let me clarify something to you. He was a defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks 2015 to 2017. That was not the same Legion of Boom team. That Legion of Boom team that sat back and led you back-to-back Super Bowls, that defensive coordinator was Dan Quinn. That was 2013, 2014. Chris Richard was just an assistant at the time. So let's get that one straight. And then you have Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Like I told you before, I don't sit back and trust no coordinator coming out of New England. The coordinator, coach, don't matter. Player, I don't trust them at all coming out of New England. Would I trust them with the keys to the Miami Dolphins? Hell no. So let's go ahead and get that one out of the way. Now, the only offensive-minded head coaching candidate that they actually did have was Eric Bieniemy. They said they had his interview yesterday, Friday afternoon. But I went ahead and looked back at some of the defensive coordinators and the defensive personnel that we've had over the years, because I strongly feel like I'd be a little bit too hard on Matt Burke. Like I said to you before, I think it's not the defensive coordinator. I think it's all comes down to player personnel that we have on the team. Yeah, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe button, because I was up late last night taking notes. I'm going to stimulate y'all minds this morning. Literally stimulate y'all minds. But so we're going to start off with 2011, man. Literally going to start off with 2011. 2011 defense, points allowed. Like, to be honest with you, when you sit back and look at when you look at a defense, to be honest with y'all, points allowed is points wins you games. Literally, points wins you games. So I would think that points allowed is much more important than how many rushing yards and how many passing yards you give up. But points allowed, 19.6. Rush defense, third, 95.6. Pass defense was 25th with 249.5. Now, head coach at the time was Tony Sparano for half the season, and then Todd Bowles came in after this. Tony Sparano was fired. Todd Bowles at the time was a secondary coach. Defensive coordinator was Mike Nolan. So when you look at the player personnel here, well, because obviously we was running the 3-4 at the time, but you have three big bodies down in the trenches. You had Randy Starks, you had Paul Solier, and you had Kendall Langford. And then, of course, at the linebacker position, Carlos Dansby, Kevin Burnett, Cole Meesey was spelling with Jason Taylor. Then you have Cam Wick on the other side. Now, I look at the secondary a little bit. The reason why I would probably say that the secondary was so bad because of Jeremiah Bell. That dude literally could not cover to save his life. But leading tacklers, Jeremiah Bell with 107 tackles. Kevin Burnett was 106, and Carlos Dansby was 103. So you look at it, like, the defensive leadership is on the team. They have veteran leadership on the team, and sure tacklers. Now let's go ahead and look at 2012 real quick. Now this is the Joe Philbin era. We're coming into the Joe Philbin era right now. So Joe Philbin in 2012 came on. He switched the team to a 4-3 defense. We literally points allowed 7th, 19.8. Passing yards allowed 27th, 24, 248.4 yards a game. And then, of course, rush defense, it went from 7th all the way to, third all the way to 13th with 108.4. This is where it starts going downhill. By the way, if I didn't say this already, this is Kevin Coyle's first year as our defensive coordinator. And a lot of people sit back and complain about the Miami Dolphins getting defensive coordinators from the Cincinnati Bengals. Hey, they all came from that Mike Zimmer tree. I don't have no problem with that Mike Zimmer tree. But leading tacklers, Carlos Dansby, 134 tackles. Kevin Burnett, 110. Rashad Jones, 74. Rashad Jones, this is when he starts making his mark here. But yeah, you see the rush defense drop. Most definitely, I think if we end up fixing the rush defense in 2019, I think we can fix a lot of issues. But yeah, you look at the personnel again. The 2 defensive tackles, Paul Solier and Randy Starks, 2 big bodies, 2 premier run stuffing specialists. Period. Now, going up to 2013. 2013, that defense. Kevin Coyle returns to the defensive coordinator. We decide, Joe Philbin, these are his words exactly. We want to get younger on our defensive linebacking core. We want to be younger and faster. So who he decides to bring in the 2013 season, we bring in Darnell Ellerbe. Supposedly was supposed to be Ray Lewis's successor. He basically learned behind Ray Lewis. We bought him in there for $30 million. And then we bought in Philip Wheeler for $26 million. But that year, points allowed was 8th, averaging 20.9 points a game. Pass defense was 16th, 234.5 yards a game. And rush defense dropped to 24th with 124.9. You see where that's going here already? Because now you said we got younger at linebacker. We still got the same 2 defensive tackles in there, Paul Solier and Randy Starks, but we get younger at linebacker, and you see how the rush defense is kind of struggling now. We have these 2 young guys in there. But as far as the leading tacklers, Philip Wheeler, 118, Rashad Jones, 107, Ellerbe, 101. So yeah, you see the defensive leadership on the team here. Inconsistencies. Now, 2014. Joe Philbin again. Kevin Coyle is still the defensive coordinator. We go points allowed, 20th, 23rd, 23.3 points a game. Pass defense, 6th, 223.3. Rush defense, 24th. So we're sitting back in the same ranking, but we end up making a defensive tackle change. We end up bringing in Odrick. Solier is going at the time. So we have Randy Starks and Odrick in there. And of course, at the linebacker position, Ellerbe had a season-ending injury. So we ended up having to rely on Jelani Jenkins. I believe he was going into his 2nd year. Philip Wheeler, he had 45 tackles. Rashad Jones had 80. And the reason why, in case you're wondering why the pass defense was so great, you look at it, they had a nice secondary. Yeah, Brent Grimes at the time, he was having a Pro Bowl year. Lewis Delmas and Rashad Jones, they complemented each other. I believe they was the best safety tandem back then at the time. So, yeah, I would strongly believe that's why we ended up having such a great pass defense that year. Now, 2015, this is where it gets very, very interesting. This is the year that we bring in the Ndamukong Suh, that $114 million contract. So, Philbin is still the head coach, but he only coaches half the season. Dan Campbell comes in as the interim. Kevin Coyle gets fired. Lou Anarumo, I always get that wrong. Anarumo comes in as an interim defensive coordinator. So, the defensive rankings are 19th, points allowed, 224.3. Pass defense, an average of exactly 250 yards. That's 21st. Rush defense dropped all the way to 28th, averaging 126.2 yards a game. Literally, you had the best defensive tackle in football, and we end up dropping to the bottom. Less than you got like in the bottom 5. You're literally in the bottom 5 right now as far as rush defense. Bottom 5. Leading tacklers: Rashad Jones, 135. Kelvin Shepard, he came in during the middle of the season, had 102. Cole Messi, 78. And of course, 2 defensive tackles at the time was Sue and Earl Mitchell. Inconsistency at linebacker, and I'm not liking the whole defensive tackle thing. I don't even think Earl Thomas at the time was a great at run stuffing. I thought he was more of a pass rusher defensive tackle, but that's what the edge rushers are for. Now, moving on to 2016, that would be Adam Gaze's first year. Here we go. This You're going to like this. You're going to like this. 2016, points allowed, 18th, 23.8 points a game. Pass defense, 15th, 242.2 yards a game. And, of course, rush defense dropped all the way to 30th, 140 yards a game. And now, this is what I wanted to point out to y'all. Y'all keep screaming for Vance Joseph since he got fired from the Denver Broncos for him to be our defensive coordinator again. How are you going to be our defensive coordinator if he's sitting back and allowing us to give up over 140 yards a game on the ground? And that's set third to last. That's third to last. But anyway, defensive tackles, Jonah Phillips, Ndamukong Suh. Leading tacklers, Kiko Alonso, that's his first year, 114. Issa Abdul-Kadir, 77. Ndamukong Suh, 72. Obviously, Rashad Jones ended up getting hurt that year, so he ended up contributing. Now, 2017. This is Matt Burke's first year as our defensive coordinator. First year as our defensive coordinator. And this is why this is what made me want to sit back and make this video, because the amount of hate that Matt Burke has gotten this past year of 2018, how everybody wants him to get fired. They're still wondering right now why he hasn't been fired. Because, like I told you, it's all player personnel when you look at it. The 2017 season, this was last year, points allowed, it was 29th, averaging 24.6 points a game. Pass defense, 16th, 225 yards. Rush defense, it was 14th, 110.5. You look at the defensive tackles, Ndamukong Suh, Devon Godchild. Leading tacklers, Rashad Jones, Kiko Alonso, Lawrence Timmons. And you know what? I wanted to sit back and add Ray Malaluga in there because of the fact that I felt like he played a huge factor from week 5 on to week 10 when he ended up getting cut after week 10 for that incident that he had. But look at the experience you have here. You have Ray Malaluga, Lawrence Timmons, Kiko Alonso, veteran leadership right there. Ndamukong Suh, all in there. Like it goes to show. Matt Burke, I don't want to say he's not that bad. You know what? He's not that bad. Like literally, he's not that bad. Like literally, his first had the rush defense sitting at 14th. Sitting at 14th. Of course, going into 2018, this past year, everybody's disappointed. Points allowed, 27th, 21.1. Pass defense, 21st, 245.8 yards a game. Rush defense, 31st, 145 yards, 0.3. To defensive tackles at the time, right this year, Godchild and Spence. Leading tacklers, Kiko Alonso, Raekwon McMillan, TJ McDonald, and Jerome Baker. Now, moving forward, looking at the 2019 season, looking at all these past seasons for the Miami Dolphins over the past 8 years. Past 7 years. The main thing that I'm looking at is literally consistency and veteran leadership when you look at it. Like I said, in the 2019 season, the Miami Dolphins most definitely, because people are complaining about the linebackers that we have. They're not that bad. I saw Raekwon McMillan have flashes of big plays. Jerome Baker had flashes of big plays. If you keep that key nucleus together, like they could grow together and be a premier linebacking group. Like they're still young. I gotta give them the opportunity to sit back and make plays. Like literally make plays. And of course, in the front four, like I said, either in the draft or go out in the free agency and find us 2 solidified run stuff and defensive tackles. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's an absolute must. And it's because I know everybody's sitting back and want Robert Quinn to go. Like even if that becomes the case, give Charles Harris the keys. Like he sat back and had been in a rotational role for the past 2 years. Like he needs to sit back and have the keys to and actually get the experience under his belt to become a premier pass rusher, which I think he has the potential to be. Now, going on to the secondary, looking at it, you need a corner opposite of Xavier Howard. You do. And if we somehow we can end up working out the whole TJ McDonald, Rashad Jones thing, you've seen it. You've literally seen it. When I sat back, I looked at some of these numbers. Chris Clemens and Rashad Jones, I believe it was 2012. They both had over 100 tackles. Maybe you got to look back at the film on how that ended up happening, but they ended up leading the team in tackles at one year. So Rashad Jones wasn't always a box safety. The first half of his career, he ended up being the back end safety, being the coverage safety. So, like I didn't even get to give you how I felt about that whole outburst that he had about how we're losing and he's not comfortable with his position. When you end up playing on a team, you going to have to perform in the position that the coach tells you to play into. But that was a mouthful. But let me know what you guys think. You know what it is. If you enjoy the content, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This is GreatOne DeVore. I'm up out of here.